the sale and therefore the future of the club. The story, reported by The Times, centres on the current owner, Roman Abramovich. As you can see, our chief reporter, Kaveh Solokol, is here. Right, Kaveh, what is this development?
Look, I think we have to go back 2 months ago. That is when Roman Abramovich put Chelsea up for sale. He said it was a very difficult decision for him, and he also made it clear that he was not going to ask for the loans that he'd made to the club, totaling £1.5 billion, to be repaid. And he also said that all the proceeds from the sale would go into a charitable foundation, and that money would be given to all of the victims of the war in Ukraine. Now, just 8 days after that, on the 10th of March, he was sanctioned by the United Kingdom government. Now, that meant that he had to stop doing business in the UK. All his businesses had to stop. Nobody could do business with him, except a special exception was made for Chelsea Football Club, because Chelsea, according to the government, are a cultural asset. So they were given a license, which meant that they were allowed to operate until the end of this month, the 31st of May. In the meantime, the club was put up for sale. The sale was overseen by this New York-based investment bank, the Rain Group. And we found out on Friday that they had selected a consortium led by the American businessman Todd Burley as the preferred bidder. And he's got...
Roman Abramovich is now wanting, according to the Times, to be repaid his £1.6 billion loan that is owed to a sister company. He wants that back during this takeover period, which has thrown major doubt over the takeover. It's thrown a massive spanner into the works of the takeover. You can see the tweet here by Rod Draper. This says, if Roman Abramovich now wants his £1.6 million loan back, as per the Times Sports, then Chelsea have a huge existential problem. The UK government have always insisted this won't happen. The clock is ticking for the 31st deadline, but it's more serious than a complex delay. Now, this is something Chelsea fans have got to be focusing on. It's something that's been on my mind for a long time with this takeover, and it's that, yes, the Ricketts group, no to Ricketts was this big focus, and for the right reasons. But there's been very little attention paid to this situation by people and other elements of this deal that could go wrong. Now, Roman now appears to want his money back in one way, shape, or form. Could this be that he's worried that his wealth in other areas is going to be eradicated, and he wants this money, properties that he owns, businesses that he's owned, where his stocks are invested, all these things, if all that's getting taken away from him, he's billions of pounds, which, by the way, a lot of it wouldn't have been cash. A lot of it will be assets and investments and other things like this. If that's all going to fall away and he's going to suddenly become a much poorer man, it makes sense that he might want this £1.6 billion back. Now, Rod Draper goes on to say the Premier League meet on June the 8th to constitute the new league for the 22-23 season. If Chelsea are not licensed to operate by then, and they are only licensed now in the UK government, then they can't be part of the Premier League. Simples. And that's why this needs focus. Because if they don't have the license to operate come the 8th of June, Chelsea cannot participate in the Premier League next year. Now, many will say this is scaremongering, this isn't going to happen. But a lot of what's now coming out and being reported by highly credible sources, The Times, is that Roman appears to be going back on his original word that he doesn't want any of the money back. Now, there is a way forward from this. Here's part of an article which is really important to look at. It says here that that's the biggest sticking point at the moment. Roman originally promised to write off the debt, but due to the sanctions against him, he can't legally do so right now. So that's also what's interesting here. Even if he wants to write the debt off, and this is a slightly different version of events, he can't just do that. He has to wait for a period of time. He must, though, agree a deal with the UK government to convert it into equity. This is the most logical solution and one the government seems open to, even if it weakens the share value of the club. Otherwise, the Bowley Group must take on the debt at book value. So there is a way out of this, which is called a debt to equity swap. A debt to equity swap involves where the creditor, so i.e. Roman Abramovich's business, converts the debt owed into by the company into shares in that company. So essentially the sister company will own shares in Chelsea Football Club. Essentially they're using that debt and they're buying shares without actually exchanging any money. So there is a way round of doing this. However, it's all about whether Roman wants this money or not, because at this moment in time, and this is when it comes to any of these financial situations and breakdowns, Roman cannot end up with a penny of this as it stands right now. And where this becomes kind of precarious in many ways, it's whether or not Roman wants to play chicken with the UK government. If he pushes too far, if he thinks, I'll win this battle, I can get something out of this, he might find himself in trouble, and Chelsea along with him. Another extract from a brilliant article here says, in the past few days, Chelsea have warmed to this approach. The club would ideally like to restructure the deal to pay off the debt from its parents' company. The key point with Fordstam, they can't pay anything to Roman or any affiliated company under the sanctions, which makes the idea hugely problematic. If they attempt this, the government could just block the sale. The plan is essentially reliant on Camberley either being untouchable by the government, Chelsea arguing a legal loophole, or debt just remaining in loophole until the payment can be made. So this is all about the approach being done in the right way, being conducted correctly. But this could be very, very, very bad news for Chelsea. I'm not even trying to blow this up and make it into something that it's not. There's a big part of me that is very sure that Chelsea Football Club will resolve this in the right way, resolve this in the correct way, do this amicably, do this sensibly. The government be on board. The government wants to protect Chelsea as best they can. They do want to protect Chelsea as best they can. I don't think there's any doubt about that whatsoever. One of the most likely scenarios in this is that Todd Boehly's group will be saddled with a pending debt, with it being unclear how they can approach this. It may just be, do you know what? Let's just take the debt on. Let's pay that. Let's also take £1.6 billion out of our fund, and let's pay Roman Abramovich's company back in Jersey. Now, that company in Jersey, as far as we were aware, cannot give any of that money to Roman right now either. But Todd Boehly's group might decide to do that. The Boehly group may have to borrow the money to fund the spending, and that's where this becomes complicated, because it might mean Chelsea can operate. It might mean Chelsea can go about their business as usual. Roman's gone. Ties are all cut. But if you've got a big debt connected to this now, £1.6 billion, you've got to remember, Man United's debt costs them £20–30 million a year in interest payments. And it's like $400 or $500 million last time I checked. This could be £1.6 billion of debt. So not only would Chelsea be down the 20–30 million a year Roman is pumping in, there's big income deficiencies because of the loan market changing. If they're suddenly down 20–30–40 million pound a year in loan payments as well, suddenly Chelsea find themselves £900 million a year, like with less income or more expenditure, either which way. But essentially, that is hitting the profit margins. That is hitting the transfer market. That is hitting the wage structure. Todd Boehly's group's got a lot of work to do to recoup that money, whether that be through, and the only way they can do that without it impacting the transfer element, which is important to Chelsea, is through raising more sponsorship. It's going to be a very, very interesting situation indeed. There's another comment here that says Roman Abramovich must agree a deal with the UK government to turn the debt into equity to avoid the debt looming. And that's all about Roman. I'm not saying Roman's going to screw Chelsea. I don't want to sound overtly dramatic. I really, really don't. But it's going to be so, so key. You know, it's going to be so, so key. It really, really would. The comment here from Rod Draper that also says here that if Roman thinks the UK government will blink if they don't want to see, because they don't want to see Chelsea fold or go into administration, then he's gambling hugely on the government's morality. A good bet, you might say. But be in no doubt, if he wants the debt repaid, Chelsea's future is at stake. The clock is ticking. And this is the point. It's all about whether Roman wins that debate against the UK government. And to be honest with you, the fact that he said 2 months ago that there was no way that he was going to be asking for this debt back, and suddenly there's big talk from credible sources he is, for him just to suddenly relinquish that, I don't know. Why hasn't he done that already? He knew that this could be the case. This has clearly been the plan all along. And I want Chelsea fans' views and opinions on this, because Todd Bowley's group, they're picked. They're not just the favourite. They've been chosen as the preferred buyer. Do they want it with a £1.6 billion debt? Do they want Roman Abramovich's sister company, Chelsea's current sort of sister company, their senior company that they owe debt to? Do they want them as a shareholder? Do the investors in the Todd Bowley group want that? Are they happy with suddenly £1.6 billion worth of shares being given to this organization? Because, of course, that's what happens when you do a debt to equity swap. Are all the investors happy? The likes of Lewis Hamilton and Serena Williams that have put their money in. Remember, a lot of people investing in this Chelsea takeover are doing it to make money in the medium to long term. If there's suddenly a big debt, if there's suddenly another company that owns more shares than them, who may be entitled in future to bigger out for money being taken out, who may want to sell those shares in 1 year, 2 year, 3 years time if suddenly Roman isn't sanctioned anymore. Where does this leave the club? Where does it leave the takeover? Where does it leave the future? Now, will Chelsea Football Club go out of business? I don't think so. I don't think so. But could it leave them in a much weaker position going into next season, where Tuchel needs money, the squad needs replenishing, hundreds of millions of pounds of players needed? Will Chelsea have the ability to do that if they are saddled with this debt in one way, one shape, or one form? Will the new owners and consortium behind it be as invested? Should this get converted into an equity and shares be given away? Or could the sales process have to start all over again? Do they have to go back to previous bidders, the likes of Sir Martin Broughton? Could that delay things beyond the 31st of May? Will the UK government extend its conditional licensing? There's a lot of questions up in the air, and there was a reason this was dragging its feet. And I think we now know what that reason was. Chelsea fans, what's your thoughts? What's your feelings? How do you feel about Roman Abramovich right now surrounding this news? What do you think is going to happen as well? Leave us your comments below. But this is massive. Also, by the way, scan the QR code on the screen and check out the Football Terrace Clips channel. The link's also inside our description below. Go and subscribe to that. Amazing daily clips out each and every single day. We've got some big stuff coming on the Football Terrace soon as well. So keep your eyes peeled. Until next time, my people, take care. Goodbye. God bless. See you soon.